Hello and welcome to my Christian fiction podcast, where I share my stories with you. Right now, you're listening to Tangled Web, written and read by Eunice Wilkie. Chapter 20. Monday, the 11th of May, 2020. John never anticipated that CCTV of Pine Martins would help solve an NCA case. But Monday morning found him watching video footage of the past 2 weeks. The Highland Pine Martin Watch charity didn't keep more than this, of 2 camera angles showing tree trunks, a dim forest clearing, and the tall waving branches of Scots pine trees. One advantage was that, with the correct ID and password, he could view the footage from his own desk. But 3 hours into fast-forwarding, jerky movements of quiet woodland, his eyes were blurring over. He had delegated some days of the recording to junior colleagues, and at lunchtime, the PC viewing footage from Sunday the 3rd of May saw the curious sight of a woman crawling through the undergrowth at 7:47 a.m. and lying flat on the ground by a fallen tree trunk. The figure lay unmoving on the ground in the wood, and after 15 minutes crawled back through the undergrowth and out of sight. There was one clear image of her face when, unknowingly, she looked straight at the camera. It was Kath Geddes. Monday the 4th of May yielded another exclamation from another colleague. Early that morning, a woman came into view hauling a large rectangular briefcase. It seemed inconceivable that this wasn't the case containing the money. How many other cases were there like this that someone would want to hide? She was on and off camera without any evidence where she had gone, but this was it. Kath Geddes had buried the case, and John would have bet a significant amount that she hadn't told her husband. When they turned up with the search warrant the Friday of that week, the money was already safely in the wood. With renewed hope, they scanned the next few days, and on Saturday 2 figures came into view, by posture secretive and stealthy, struggling through the undergrowth, following the same route that Kath had taken previously. They disappeared from view. When they reappeared into camera view, Bob Geddes was carrying the case. They had caught them. The revelations began to unfold more quickly after that. Not only did they have a direct link with Bob and Kath Geddes, and what seemed very likely to be the case which contained the missing cash, but John received a phone call from Uncle Sid Seagrave, who claimed he had found a £100 Scottish banknote. Any other time, John wouldn't have treated this as priority, but since it seemed likely to be yet another missing note, he set off to tour on a double mission. He would visit Sid and Edith and interview Bob and Kath Geddes. If need be, he would bring the Geddeses in for questioning. The first visit was easy. Sid and Edith were only sorry that they could not prolong the encounter with their favourite young man. They were eager to speculate on the cause of such an unexpected treasure, perhaps bandits hiding in the area with their ill-gotten gains, and happily gave the banknote into John's keeping, certain he was on the verge of single-handedly solving a complex crime. "If anyone can do it, it's you, son," said Sid heartily. Edith nodded eagerly. "You bring those thieves to justice," she said solemnly. John walked the short distance to the Geddes' large home. "You back again?" Bob greeted him jovially when he opened the door. John could smell delicious baking wafting from the house. "Come to search for more money?" teased Bob. If he was put out by John's appearance, it certainly wasn't apparent. "No search warrant this time, Mr. Geddes, but I would like to ask you some questions about a case of money." "Why do you think I would know anything about a case of money?" scoffed Bob. "Because I found one banknote which wasn't even real? Kath, you should come and hear this." "I'd like to speak to Mrs. Geddes too," John agreed, as if it was his idea. "It's about the money again," Bob explained. "Search again if you'd like. You won't find anything." "I don't doubt it," said John, "but I would like to ask you why you both appear in CCTV images captured in Hangman's Wood behind your house." Bob blurted, "They've got cameras in that old wood. What do they want cameras in there for?" "Pine martens," said John dryly. He didn't bother correcting Bob's incredulous exclamation of, "They've got cameras to watch birds," although Kath muttered scornfully, "Pine martens aren't birds." John continued, "CCTV images of you, Mrs. Geddes, carrying a large case into the wood. The case looks identical to the one we know is missing, and other images show you in the wood on other occasions, including Mr. Geddes returning carrying an identical case on Saturday. Where did you put it, Mr. Geddes?" Bob didn't even try to prevaricate. "Back at that old cottage where it belongs," he snapped. "Me and Kath wanted nothing to do with that cash. Two women neighbours spun a yarn about needing someone to look after it, to keep it safe from a man called Terry they were both mixed up with. Kath took it out of the kindness of her heart, and then the trouble began. We didn't know it was stolen or mixed up in crime. We put it in the wood because we didn't want any trouble, and then we decided we should put it back where the women said they got it from. That's it. That's all we've done, and good riddance, I say." It was such an extraordinary confession that it seemed likely to contain some truth, and it would be easy enough to prove at least some of the story. "So I'll find the case and all the money at Molly Johnson's cottage?" Bob shrugged. "Should be there, unless someone else has taken it, like those women again, Amanda and Lizette something or other. Or that man they were trying to hide it from, Terry. I'll come with you if you like." Kath Geddes corroborated everything her husband said, and, on the basis that it was better to keep Bob Geddes close by until he could verify his story, John agreed to his company. Small talk with Bob Geddes wasn't difficult. John wouldn't trust him as far as he could throw him, but there was no history of violence in his record. He was a crook, and there was bound to be more to the story than Bob admitted, but he wasn't objectionable as a companion. His views of the Strath, COVID, Scotland versus England, women, his wife, and life in general were, in John's opinion, ignorant, but harmless enough. At Molly Johnson's cottage, in the shed that had in recent days been padlocked, there was a buckled case. It was empty. There was no money.